Good morning and welcome to the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Today's date is May 7th, 2025. We'll begin with a moment of silence. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Chair. Before I do, Member Botana has asked to be excused, and I've marked him so. Apking?
Here.
Marker?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Senator?
Here.
Severson?
Here.
York?
Here.
Lemieux?
Here.
Schwartz?
Here.
8 present, 1 excused.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our first action item here, item 6, and that's approval of the minutes. Copy of the regular meeting minutes for April 2nd, 2025 were included in your backup materials. Is there any discussion from the commission? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
And to be clear, that's a motion to approve as presented?
Yes.
Motion to approve the April 2nd, 2025 meeting minutes as presented, made by Commissioner Botana, and a second by Commissioner Senator.
Chair, wasn't it Mr. Apking that moved?
Oh, Apking, sorry.
Thank you. Just clarifying. And Mr. Senator did second, all right? Thank
Correct.
you.
Thank you. You would call the roll?
Apking?
Aye.
Marker?
Aye.
Martin? Aye. Senator? Aye. Severson? Aye. York?
Aye.
Schwartz?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you very much. Thank you for clarifying. We'll move on to item 8A, that's ordinance 2125, and I believe the city has a presentation. I'll turn it over to the city.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. For the record, Anthony Santora, Senior Planner, City Planning Staff. I'm here today to talk about Ordinance 2125. This is a small-scale initiated ordinance to amend the future land use. This is on behalf of the City of Cape Coral. This is for the property at 3415 and 3519 Oasis Boulevard. It's approximately 18.5 acres in the infill urban services. So the city is requesting to amend the future land use to take a portion of this property from the Parks and Recreation Future Land Use Designation, or PK, to the Public Facilities Land Use Designation. There's a planned school expansion for a athletic facility in the rear, and the swift shift to the Public Facilities Future Land Use will allow exclusive access and use for that facility for the school. So a little bit of background information. Again, the area that we are looking at is a part of a single parcel that is currently split classified. It is within a public facilities complex, so there are 2 schools that are already established on the property, which we will see. The area we are talking about has a small field, but the rest of it is currently vacant and undeveloped with some vegetation. On the zoning history of the property, this was originally zoned R3. It was changed in 1990 to RD, and then in 2019 to R1. For the future land use, it has been SM, which was our single-family multifamily. It was converted to Parks and Rec in 2002, and then to public facilities for the front portion where the schools were developed in 2004. So again, as we stated, the amendment is to remove this split zoning, reunify the parcel with the public facilities, and then to allow for the use and expansion of the athletic facility. So here we can see the site in question. You'll notice the 2 schools, the charter school and the middle school to the left, the high school to the right. The area we are looking at is identified in the blue outline. It is the rear portion of the property, and then a small outlier piece that is currently undeveloped and vacant, all to the south. So this is all part of the single property. But you can see here, within the bounds of this parcel, it is currently split classified. The public facilities in light blue on the front where the public facilities have been established, and then the PK to the south and to the east where there is currently nothing. So what we are seeking today is to change this to public facilities, again, unifying that parcel and then allowing for the expansion and development of that athletic facility. The zoning will not change. The use are, as we'll see in the staff report and within the zoning code, the uses are pretty much identical in the PK and the PF land use classification. So the zoning will not be changing. So as required by the code, staff examined the requirements for analysis contained in sections 3.5.2 C1 through C6 and found through analysis and as recorded in the staff report that the requirements 1 through 6 are consistent with this future land use request. Additionally, as part of C1, which is the first criteria examination of the comprehensive plan, staff did find through analysis and as indicated in the staff report that the proposal is consistent with two elements of our comprehensive plan, those being elements 1.15 and elements 8.1. As far as the city impacts for this future land use goes, as stated before, the classification of public facilities and parks and rec are almost identical in terms of their zoning allowances. I believe there are two districts that the parks and rec, does not allow that public facilities does allow. However, the uses contained within our use table, even if you were to include those two additional zoning districts, are pretty much identical. Therefore, and since we are not changing the zoning, the actual impacts for calculations do not change whatsoever. So there would be no change and no additional analysis was conducted in regards to the potential impacts that it would have. We did ask for impact analysis from police and fire. The police department had indicated that there are no impact changes and that any that did come from development would be minor. And then the same thing for the fire department. The impacts would not be changing and then future development would be minor. So with that, city planning is recommending approval of this future land use. Prior to the hearing, but after posting materials, I did receive several phone calls from various residents within the 500-yard boundary. None of them wished to offer support or opposition to it. They were informational only, mostly to determine where this area was, as they did not know that the parcel was actually split classified, so they were trying to understand exactly what we were looking to do. Then after explaining, they're okay with it, and that was the end of the conversation. So with that, I will turn it over to any questions that you may have.
Is this behind the high school?
So this is behind the high school to the west. We can see here. So here's the high school. Here's the athletic facility for the high school, and then this is the portion. So it's technically not part of the high school property. It is actually part of the adjacent property for the charter school and the middle school. I believe it's middle school.
But it's backing up to the charter school, middle school?
Correct. So it's sharing the same property as those schools, and it is a facility for those schools' use.
So it's really not making any impact on residential anywhere around it at all?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Ordinance 21-25 made by Commissioner Schwartz, second by Commissioners Severson. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Apking?
Aye.
Marker? Martin? Senator? Severson? York? Schwartz?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Senator. We'll move on to item 8B, that's ordinance 23-25. Does the applicant have a presentation?
The applicant does have a presentation. The applicant's representative is present.
Okay. Would you like to have the applicant go first, or are you going to make a presentation?
My plan was to present first and then have the applicant's representative follow up.
Okay, perfect. Turn over to the city.
Good morning. For the record, Wyatt Daltrey, Planning Team Coordinator of the City's Planning Division. My credentials may be obtained at the City Clerk's office. Today, Ordinance 23-25 is a future land use map amendment that's privately initiated, which involves 2 acres for one property in Southeast Cape Coral near the intersection of Southeast 24th Avenue and Bellado Parkway. The request is to amend the future land use from multifamily residential, future land use, to commercial professional future land use. Property address is 2307 Bellado Parkway. Basically located in eastern Cape Coral, near the eastern edge, near the border with North Fort Myers. Following map is an aerial which indicates the property in question. As you can see, it's just west of the intersection of Bellado Parkway and Southeast 24th Avenue. The surrounding area is well developed, primarily with single-family residences to the west, southwest, and south. Multifamily is located to the north. There's a park north of that multifamily. There are also some religious facilities also proximate to the subject property to the east. The map here shows, to the left, shows the current future land use classification. Subject property is indicated in brown, which is multifamily future land use classification. Property adjacent to the north is also multifamily, but as you can see, as it goes further north to Parks and Recreation, which is indicated in green. The yellow indicates single-family residential properties, which you can see are fairly numerous to the northwest, west, southwest, and south. There are some multifamily properties to the southeast and to the east. The map on the right shows the proposed future land use map change, basically changing that property from multifamily, brown, to commercial professional in red. Some history. This property was developed initially in 1982 and has had multifamily future land use since the adoption of the comprehensive plan in 1989. Now, no multifamily use had ever been operated upon this property. Previous uses on this site had been nonprofit office and medical office uses. With the recent change of ownership in 2023, the applicant wanted to come forward and bring this amendment to commercial professional, make the existing use conforming. So that's what we're dealing with today. Just so that you're aware, there is also a rezone in process to bring this property to the professional zoning classification. As part of our analysis, Section 352C was reviewed. There are 6 criteria, of which this amendment meets 5 fully, and the 6th is deferred to council. So in other words, all 6 of these are consistent with the proposed amendment. Regarding the comprehensive plan analysis, generally for commercial professional land use changes, we like to look at policy 1.4, the future land use element, which is our commercial node criteria. There are 8 commercial node criteria. It's not you have to meet all, you have to, or you need to meet X number of criteria, but generally it helps to meet a majority of these. Now, through our analysis, this amendment fully met 5 of the 8 criteria, partially met a 6th. So we feel that this was a reasonably favorable amendment in terms of the siting of commercial on this property. To conclude, proposed amendment seeks to make an existing medical office use conforming. Proposed amendment is supported by the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan Analysis. The proposed amendment will reduce, if adopted by council, would reduce the city's deficiency in non-residential acreage, which is sorely needed. Staff recommends approval, and as I indicated earlier, the applicant's representative is on hand to provide a presentation for you. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Daughtry.
Good morning, Commissioners. Annette Barbach. I'm here representing J&J Michael Investment LLC. The principal of the property owner is also the occupant of the building, Dr. Carmona. It's a medical center there. I apologize, I'm going to have to present to you the old-fashioned way. I couldn't get my presentation on the computer. There's a process. So, see if this works. The property is located, as Wyatt mentioned, at 2307 Boleto Parkway in Cape Coral. It's on the eastern section. They're seeking a future land use amendment from multifamily to commercial professional. It's been an existing medical practice since 2017. 2 acres. Building is about 5,326 square feet. Under air of about 4,072. 56 parking spaces, and as Wyatt mentioned, this was built in 1982 before the current multifamily land use. And it's largely been operated by religious nonprofit organizations as an office. When the current owner, the applicant, purchased the building in 2023, they were unaware that their use was non-conforming and non-complying. So their effort here is to get into conformance. They've invested a lot of resources into that facility, and it does really nicely serve the surrounding community. This just gives you an idea. If you've probably seen the package, they've put a lot of resources and effort into the facility. There's 4 medical doctors, 12 medical assistants, and administrative staff, and they actively serve the surrounding community. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, and they're closed on weekends. And here's another graphic showing some of their interior. They have about 15 examining rooms and 4 offices for the doctor, as well as like a conference room. This is a great slide because it actually shows how eclectic, and the feel of that block is one of like community facility. Paul Sanborn Park is in the northwest corner. Religious institutions such as Gulf Coast Baptist Church and the Center for Spiritual Living are on the eastern side. The property, you can see the 2-acre in the southeast corner. And actually, multifamily only occupies a small portion of the property. It's Cape Garden Apartments. If you look to the east, along southeast 24th Avenue, largely the makeup there is multifamily duplexes, small apartment buildings like triplexes and quads. To the west of the property, you have single family surrounding it. So this block is almost like a buffer between Southeast 24th and the single family community. What this graphic shows is just the access and roadway connection to the property. It's located on Boleto Parkway, which is classified as a major collector street. Southeast 24th is considered an avenue, a minor arterial connector from Hancock Bridge Parkway to Vizcaya. There is a bus stop at Boleto Parkway and Southeast 24th Avenue. It's the Lee Trans 70. So it's really well located in terms of access for people to get there. We concur with staff's findings. We believe this is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It meets the objectives and the goals we believe that it's been set forth there. Allowing this continuation of this facility would protect the health and safety and welfare of the community by providing needed medical services to Cape Coral residents. There is a lack of medical doctors in the area, and it's great that we can have them in pockets like these. We believe it's compatible with the surrounding uses and would not result in negative impacts. Daytime operations, they're closed on weekends. The property is well served by city facilities such as sewer and water, utilities, and as we mentioned, located on a collector road. We stand by for any questions you might have. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Babarchia. I'll now open up to public comment. If there's any members of the public that wish to speak, please direct yourself to the podium and state your full name for the record. Seeing none, I'll close citizens' input. I'll open up to the commission. Do we have any comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Schwartz?
Yeah, I guess today's my day to talk, sorry. Normally, I'm a hard sell on having commercial and residential areas. I don't think it's the right thing to do for the citizens or the property values. But in this situation where you've had a structure that's been there for so long and has served the community for so long and just has a misclassification, I think this is, for me anyways, a pretty simple vote. So I'm in favor of that. It makes sense.
Thank you, Commissioner Schwartz. Do we have any other comments from the commission? Seeing none, do we have a motion? And that is a motion by Commissioner Martin to approve ordinance 23-25 and a second by Commissioner Apking. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Apking?
Aye.
Marker?
Aye.
Martin? Senator? Severson? York? Schwartz?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on to the next agenda item, and that's item 8C, ordinance 24-25. I believe the city has a presentation, and I'll turn it over to the city.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Chad Boyko, Principal Planner with the city's Planning Division. This is a ordinance that was a council initiative. It's a composition ordinance for the makeup of the P&Z board. It talks mostly about having the P&Z members should have preferable experience in fields of architecture, planning, landscape architecture, engineering, construction, land use law, and real estate with as wide a spectrum as those professions represented as possible. The ordinance also states that no more than 2 members from any individual preferred profession may be appointed as regular members concurrently in the same commission. That is essentially the gist of the ordinance, and I'm here for any further questions.
This is a public hearing. I'll open up to the public. If there's any members of the audience that wish to speak, please direct yourself to the podium and state your full name for the record. Seeing none, I'm going to close citizens' input. I'm going to turn it over to the commission. Do we have any comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Senator?
Yes, so if this goes through, is that retroactive or is this for the future?
I'll defer that to the city attorney for his opinion on that.
Hi, Cody Von Birch, Assistant City Attorney. No, it would be applied prospectively.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
Oh,
Commissioner York?
sorry. Thank you. I think this is a great idea. So you're trying to get some diversity. And it does say that it looks pretty discretionary because it talks about either experience or interest in the field. And then whenever possible, should include members, citizens that, and then it names some different occupations that would have some expertise in the area of planning, which I really like. So this is my question. If someone has a realtor license, it sounds like it would be prohibited to appoint more than 2 people on this board with realtor licenses. Is that the way you would read it?
I believe that if the, I mean, I could, we could also defer to the sanitary. If I believe that if they have experience in multiple fields, then maybe that would, help their standing in that case. But once again, I'll defer to our city attorney.
Okay, because it says, the last sentence says, no more than 2 members from any individual preferred profession may be appointed. That sounds like it's prohibiting.
Sure. Again, Cody Von Birch, Assistant City Attorney. The goal here, I think, really is twofold. Where you have maybe a field of 2 or 3 multiple applicants up for an open position, this gives some selection criteria. If you have one of those individuals in a preferred field and the others are not. Again, though, as you point out, we don't want 7 landscape architects on the planning and zoning. God forbid we have 7 attorneys up here, you know what I mean? Yes, the way it is written is how you are interpreting it, and that is, from what I understand, one of the goals of this is to ensure that it's not one field, one occupation, one field of expertise that makes up a majority or more than 2 members of the board. But certainly, this hearing is the time for discussion and debate over whether different language needs to be included or something needs to be refined or clarified. So this is the appropriate time to have that discussion or suggest removal or addition of language.
Thank you.
Liaison Councilmember Long.
Yes, sir. Yeah, just kind of to echo what he had just indicated, I think you were correct in your interpretation. You put your legal hat on there, so the first portion is discretionary, but what's not in the plain language is the latter portion. So that's the foundation. I'm the council member that brought this forward for discussion, and as part of that discussion was the example that was provided was specifically real estate. So again, you know that in law you can write books and still not write enough as far as the potentials, but to me, in my general interpretation, would be if you've got an active real estate license, that would pigeonhole you into that category regardless of your other endeavors for qualifications on this board. I think that's fair, but that's just my interpretation, and again, that's why we're here to discuss it, and if enough of you didn't agree with that or wanted to loosen that restriction or make it more clear, that's what we're here to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwartz.
Okay, so I'm an active electrical contractor. That's my career. That's what I do for a living for the last 33 years. But I have an active real estate license because I buy and sell property for myself. Would that be a factor?
Is that a question to the city or to the attorney?
Whoever wants to answer it.
City attorney? I think that's a
Sure.
question for you, sir.
I think any of these determinations are all going to be fact-based, right? But my question would be, what do you see yourself as in terms of your primary occupation and expertise? And it seems that based on what you said, it might fall more into the sort of broader word construction that we have in here.
100%, yeah.
And that would be how you would represent your primary field of expertise. There may
Which
be.
is how I am represented. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure, because I'll, put the license on inactive if the real estate license was a problem.
Yeah, I don't think that there's necessarily, we try to write these so that they are as black letter and bright line as possible so
Right.
that we're not put in an uncomfortable position of interpreting regulations that aren't plainly written, but then also sometimes automatically, if you have a realtor license, that makes you a realtor and ineligible for qualification in another field if
Yeah, you would
another
never
field is your
recognize me as a
primary
realtor. Yeah.
expertise. So that would be the intent, and I wouldn't. I would just say that any kind of determination in the future is going to be very fact-based.
Right.
And the facts that you gave me about yourself, I would agree with you in terms of how you're representing your field of expertise.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? I would tend to agree with Mrs. York's statement. So this is kind of all set under the title of preferred composition. However, part of it's preferred composition, part of it's required composition, because it's a requirement. In the first part, I think it's great. I think those are certainly things that should be brought into the discussion when we're looking at new members, without a doubt. It's the second part, the required portion composition, that is difficult for me, and I think it's going to bring up several discussions similar to what Mr. Schwartz was discussing, and we're going to see that repeat each time, and I don't see that as being a very beneficial addition to this particular ordinance. Maybe just sticking with the first part of it may be a better way to look at it. And we all do know that council, at the end of the day, has the determination. So that's this council today. 5 years from now, it'll be a different council. And to pigeonhole them into a situation where they can't take a good candidate seems there's very little benefit to it, in my opinion. In looking at this in the way that it's written in the listed preferred professions, we could have 7 accountants but we couldn't have 7 attorneys. I get that we should have a diversity, but to pigeonhole it to these particular industries seems of little benefit to me. I fall into 2 or 3 of these, and I wouldn't be allowed on this board for sure. And I'm sure there's other, candidates out there. I don't see where this adds additional benefit to the selection of the council, aside from reducing their ability to pick a good and educated planning and zoning commission. But those are my comments. Commissioner York.
Okay, so I like it, and I think it's very important to encourage diversity on this board. There have been times in the past where it's been comprised of almost entirely realtors. The problem with that, I think, is obvious, that you can't have just one type of profession. And also realtors, maybe their interest might be different than a landscape architect or even a teacher. I'd like to see representatives from the teaching field. I'd like to see representatives from law enforcement, from a firefighter. Young people who live in Cape Coral, but to see a board comprised entirely or almost entirely of one profession, and honestly, my thinking would be that I think the wording should be left alone, and I would even be comfortable saying that it could be interpreted, if you even have a real estate license, you're one of the 2 people, and I'm sorry, but we can't appoint a 3rd person with a real estate license. I mean, too often we see people whose interests maybe aren't for the city itself and for the citizens in the city, but maybe for landowners, or the problem also would be colleagues, that kind of a thing. And our interests should really be very neutral and very pro-citizens in the city. So I'm all for this wording, and I would even be comfortable interpreting it in the most narrow way possible. That's it.
Commissioner Schwartz again, actually.
I just want to make one more touch on the real estate thing. We live in Florida. 75% of the population has a real estate license. Whether they use it or not, it's Florida, it's property, that's what we do. So I understand what Commissioner York is saying, and I agree. A board full of the same professions is not a productive board. I like the diversity in the board. But when it comes to the real estate license, if we're really looking at this, we need to look at active versus inactive. How far do we take this? I mean, am I a true realtor because I have a license? No, I have a health and life insurance license too, but I don't do anything with health and life insurance. Just have a license. So it becomes a problem. I'm construction. I'm not any of those other things. But I have a couple of documents that say I could do those other things, but I don't.
Thank you. Commissioner Senator.
Yeah, so to expand on what Commissioner Schwartz said, so most people do have real estate license. For many, many years, I used to teach licensing, so I know that huge number of people have licenses in Florida. I hold a broker's license. Several of us have licenses. But to say that you can't have more than 2, because that's not my primary, even though as the real estate broker, I am the primary. But I do land development. I do engineering. I'm in construction. I've done architecture. I would think that if we had somebody with multiple backgrounds, we should not alienate them because they hold a real estate license. For any of us that hold a license, it's profitable to hold it and not make it inactive. So my only concern, I like everything about it, except the fact that it says no more than 2. As long as it was kind of opened, if you had other specialties in your background that would make you eligible, then that would be fine. Thank you.
Commissioner Severson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just curious as to Councilman Long, in terms of what the council was thinking or what your thoughts are in terms of the verbiage on this. Is it a problem that has existed in the past, been identified, and now we need to address this through this particular language? I would agree that if you have multiple people that are coming up for multiple positions, that restricting to some extent, but I don't know that I agree with the chair here that it's going to come up as one of those things. It's always going to be a time sink in the meetings when they get together to try and make a determination that they've got to go through this and then explain it out, and it's going to be kind of a overkill to a situation. I'm not sure. I'd like to get the background.
Yeah, please, yes.
Yeah, so this isn't a council, it came from council, and they described it as council. I had asked for a second from council. The way that this process works is, in order for any individual council member to get the support to work with staff on any legislation, they need at least a second from a fellow council member. And so it's very routine that, no matter policy almost, someone says, hey, I'd like to look into this, and out of courtesy, another council member says, sure, we'll allow you that opportunity, as long as it's not something that's completely absurd. So in that scenario, I myself identified the issue. I sat on the planning and zoning board up there with some of you myself. I've served as the primary liaison and the alternate liaison as well. So I've seen over the last at least 5 years make up the composition. And so what routinely happens to Member York's problem is if you look back at the data and you see how many of you have active real estate licenses. So if you go back and the composition has changed. A certain period of time, there's been upwards of 6 members. And so we run into issues on council when you go back and look at the minutes. You'll see that some of the interests in this board don't align with council's makeup overall. So specific instance for me personally, and again, I don't speak for all of council, is if you look at the multifamily, any of the conversions from multifamily, from residential to multifamily, residential to commercial, you could almost go back and see which ones have real estate licenses that would support that change versus those that didn't. It's a start with contracts. And so you draw your own conclusion. I'm not saying that anybody's directly putting money in the pocket from that, but certainly the field of real estate benefits overall with those units coming. And so to have a board whose sole purpose is for the better interests of the city as a whole and planning and the future growth of that city, it makes sense to not have so many aligned interests combined in those efforts. That was sort of the high level. So, yeah, you could analyze all of this, and it would create problems. So to me, if you were going to take a stab at it, I would say 2 active holders of active real estate licenses, period. Because to go through the song and dance and say, well, I spend 2 out of 5 days a week at this job and 3 out of 5, and so it would be silly. And the door would always be open. That would be the only way to really make it as simple as possible. I know on the legal side of government, they like to create situations where you can kind of narrow it down or not, depending on the situation, but that leads to more problems. And it doesn't. So certainly, yeah, I identified that as an issue when we were looking at this. It's a problem here, it's going to continue to be a problem in the future as far as the ambiguity. So I'll certainly bring that up.
Thank you. Mr. Severson?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and I guess my thoughts would go on to, okay, say some of these positions open up, and there are 4 out of 8 here that are realtors, then those realtors that would want to come up and put their name in the hat would be exempt until the board was reduced to at least 1.
That's correct.
So then you'd significantly dilute that profession within the confines of the committee. Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Abke?
The intention was to narrow that.
Commissioner Apke?
Thank you. I think if you look at the application on there, it says, why do you want to be on the board? That is the most underutilized part of that application. And I would advise people when they're making the application to put down there, if they do have multiple facets of their professional careers, explain it in more detail. And that would assist the council in the approving process, such as what Jack explained where he is and some of the others. And if you do take that real estate portion and put it on hold or whatever you're going to do, so I would suggest, a further explanation, because when I looked at the applications, there's usually one line on there, basically because I want to be on the board. Well, that doesn't really explain much about your background. And then looking at resumes and things like that, they're very limited. So I think in the future, if we would suggest to anyone that's applying that they actually fill out these applications in more detail, which would help us and council when we take a look at the applications. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Schwartz.
Sorry not to belinger this point, but to address Councilman Long's point, if you were to go back and look at the votes on multifamily, commercial, you'll find, and I'm just using me as the example, you'll find I am generally the lone no vote. I'm not promoting real estate in any fashion. I'm simply here for Cape Coral and the citizens of Cape Coral. And if we're being pitched a strip mall next to a house, you know, I'm always going to be against that. So I guess my only point is I'm not here to promote real estate, even though I have a license that I keep active because I just want to buy a piece of property. But to have that affect my ability to be appointed to this board because I'm an electrical contractor, not a realtor, seems counterproductive.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from the commission? Seeing none, do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner York to be made here.
Yes, I move that we approve ordinance 2425.
Motion to approve ordinance 24-25 by Commissioner York. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second made by Commissioner Apkeen. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Apking?
Aye.
Marker?
Nay.
Martin? Nay. Senator? Nay. Severson? Nay. York?
Aye.
Schwartz?
Nay.
Thank you.
We have, excuse me, sir, we have 2 ayes and 5 nays, so motion failed.
Thank you. Do we have another motion from the commission? Commissioner Schwartz?
I don't really know how to make a motion, but I do like the diversity of the board. I don't know how you word it so it still provides an opportunity for someone with multiple experiences to be on the board. I don't know if it gets too complicated, but that's for smarter people than me. I like the diversity of the board. We've seen where this board is full of realtors, and that's counterproductive. So I like the diversity, but to restrict people with multiple talents, like I said, seems counterproductive.
So you can certainly make a motion to approve with a text alteration or text change, or a recommendation for a change.
All right, so I could make a motion to
Succinctly.
approve the ordinance with rewording the realtor license terminology.
So to be clear, you're looking to remove real estate as one of the preferred professions?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Would you be, so the ordinance refers to preferred professions, and those preferred professions are the professions that are limited to 2 members of such profession on the commission.
Yeah, as long as that is your true profession, yeah, absolutely.
So would you like to remove real estate, or would you like to add additional language to?
I would like
better-
to add an additional language that is, the real estate is your primary functional career. Then I could understand the restriction of having 2 or less.
Okay, if you want to make that motion, just make the motion to approve with your additional language. and
Okay,
then
so-
we'll move forward.
If I may,
Yep.
just briefly, and I agree, as far as the mechanics, if there's a question of, how do we go about doing this? It
Yes.
would be a motion to approve with the following amendment, right?
Okay.
And it's a recommendation to council that they do that. It doesn't sound like you have the language in front of you right now.
No.
Right? So for the clerk, for certainty purposes, she needs to know what words that need to come out and what need to go in. The way that it is written and structured is the last sentence of the proposed language reads, "No more than 2 members from any individual preferred profession may be appointed as regular members concurrently." It seems to me that second sentence has been the focus of the discussion and of the potential motion makers' aim here. So it would be that sentence that we would delete.
So can we add primary profession? Does that work? To kind of pigeonhole it?
No, because you'd be only referring to realtors.
Well, no, I don't want to just refer to realtors. I want to refer to every profession.
So
like if Tommy has an architecture license, a realtor's broker's license, and a contractor's license, we shouldn't disqualify him because he has all that. But there should only be 2 architects, 2 people from construction, 2 people from real estate,
So Commissioner
as a
Schwartz,
primary function.
Schwartz, if I may. So where it says include members, the current language is qualified and experienced in the fields. We could remove qualified and experienced and replace that with who primarily work in the fields. Is that?
That's kind of what I'm going for, yes.
Is that what you would like to do?
Yes.
Okay, you'll have to make that, it'll have to come out of your mouth. But if you make that motion, we can present it to the.
Okay, so I would make a motion to alter the existing motion proposal to change the wording to include it's their primary functional career or has been versus just a wide spectrum of.
Okay, sure. Again, Cody Von Birch, Assistant City Attorney. What I'm hearing, I think we're pretty much there. The proposal that I've heard, the third line of the proposed text, the words qualified and experienced, and the full line is, whenever possible, the commission should include members qualified and experienced in the fields of, and it lists out the fields. So instead of qualified and experienced, there is a desire to insert language that, if you could give me I don't want to put words in your mouth. but
Primary profession.
Okay, so
That's
it would
their
be.
main career.
It would be, should include members whose primary profession and main career is in the fields of. That's, clerk, do we have a certain enough motion? Maybe you want to read it.
It's a
back.
team motion.
I can read it out, if you would like. Okay. Let me get it here.
I'm sorry, Mr. Schwartz had motion, but was there a second?
We don't have, we don't
Oh, we
have a
didn't-
motion
Okay,
yet.
I think so there's
don't
not
have
a
a
motion
motion
currently
yet.
on the table. That's what I wanted to confirm. Thank you.
So just to be clear, Commissioner Schwartz, is we're going to remove the word qualified and experienced in the fields. I'm sorry, qualified and experienced. Do we know where that's coming from? Nope, good deal. Thank you, not a problem. We're going to remove qualified and experienced, and we're going to include members whose primary profession. And then what additional language did you want? You want past or primary profession? Is it
Yeah,
fields?
that's fine, yeah.
Past or primary profession.
I don't think you should remove the words qualified and
This
experienced.
isn't your motion.
No, but it makes no sense to remove the words
Well,
qualified
you
and
don't have to,
experienced.
you can remove, you can vote no on the motion, but this is Commissioner Schwartz's motion. So we'll stick with Commissioner Schwartz on this one. So what we will do is Commissioner Schwartz has made a motion to remove the words qualified and experienced and replace them with whose past or present primary profession is in, and that would lead into fields. Do we have a second? No second. Motion fails. No second. Commissioner York, would you like to make a motion? Nope.
My motion was already, I already voted on my motion, which was to accept it as written.
You can make another motion if you like.
No, I have no other motion to make.
Commissioner Severson.
Yeah, I would move to amend, bring it up for discussion, is that in the last sentence, trying to get into the intent of what we're trying to do here, no more than 2 members from any individual preferred profession being considered may be appointed as a regular member currently. I'm sorry, I'll try that again. No more than 2 members from any individual preferred profession being considered may be appointed as regular members concurrently. And I think that it addresses that if there are a panel of individuals that are up for consideration, that only 2 of the, say, 5 that are being considered would be eligible for that, and it would begin to cull the.
So I understand what you're saying. Just for clarification, it appears that there is additional ambiguity because it does say appointed, may be appointed concurrently. So is that the group of individuals that are looking to be appointed, or may serve concurrently? Might be better language because it would be more clear. And then if that's the case, it would likely need another sentence that states that this will be incorporated, not incorporated retroactively.
This is absolutely the time and place to have that discussion and make those recommendations.
I think that it's going to be tough to do with this many individuals chiming in. Can we make a recommendation that the city revises this with the information that they received today and presents it anew at the next meeting?
You can absolutely make that request.
Okay.
And, I mean, so I would just note that this is an initiative that's been moved forward at the request of council that administration has helped to formulate along with DSD. And there may be, there may be some desire to keep it moving. So I would just note that a request to bring it back to this board that might or might not happen. The requirement is to bring this for a hearing, and that would satisfy the requirement of that.
Okay.
I think the discussion here has.
This has been heard, and we don't need a motion for council to make a decision on this. Is that the recommendation from?
I think I would just inquire, since we've got a member of city council here, whether pushing it back another month is feasible in terms of whatever the desired timeline is for approval of this.
Councilmember Long?
I think he gave you just an overview. You could move to make that motion if it was a desire of council to proceed and, steamroll you guys on that. We could. I don't know that that's necessarily our desire. He was just simply telling you that, which is what he should be doing, is telling you, hey, you can make the motion, but I don't want you guys under the false pretense that means for sure council can't vote until you do. But what I was going to say, I think a little bit of a hybrid of both. Obviously, your desire makes sense. We're not going to sit here and draft legislation on the fly with 8 members. But I think it fell short in that certainly we could come back and draft it, but at least at a high level, we've identified a point or two that I think you want to get redrafted. So maybe a consensus on whether or not people agree with that in principle before we draft, because if you just say, hey, you've kind of heard what we think, and some people haven't spoken, some people have, and some people haven't weighed in one way or the other. We could bring something back, but it might be that only, the individual that just brought it forward is really, was going to be left alone on the motion, like Councilmember Schwartz was. So my suggestion would be the point that was just raised. Just say, hey, we have a desire, or there's a majority of us that have a desire to have that last portion to include generally this, and then we can work on the language and bring it back. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if you just say, hey, you've kind of taken all of our points into consideration and then redraft it, well, some of those points are probably dead on arrival. and
Yep.
so then we'd be coming back and chopping it up again.
The legislation process.
Sure, yeah, so, yeah.
However, yeah, I certainly want to get a consensus for you guys so we see where we're going to move forward with this. And I think that it's a possibility, from what I've heard, that the second portion of this may be dead on arrival, possibly, just from the consensus that I'm seeing. That would be my interpretation. And I think there's several reasons for that, but I do think the language itself is a little bit loose, especially saying, and pointing on Mr. Severson's comment as well, to be appointed concurrently. That language is loose, and this is, once this stuff is in text, it'll be in text in 10 years from now. So it'll be, these are things that are going to be difficult to interpret at that time. So I would recommend reviewing that. As far as getting a motion for review, I don't, if you guys would like that, we can, or I can just ask for another motion at this time.
Yeah, I was just saying, if we all agree at the very least that needs cleaned up.
Yep.
I think I would also agree. Hey, look, does it mean 2 from the applicant pool, or does it mean 2 seating members total?
Yep.
So that, for example, everyone would say, yeah, sure, come back and draft it, and then he would have his direction, and then we know that it's not in vain. That was all I was suggesting. Thank you.
Yep. Commissioner Senator?
So I agree with most of paragraph B. The first 2 sentences are good. My only suggestion for the third sentence, which I think a lot of people have a problem with, and I kind of wrote some things down. I put down, it is recommended that no more than 2 members from any individual preferred profession may serve or be appointed as a regular member concurrently. So it's more of a suggestion, so I thought that might be more amicable for everybody.
So we can bring it up for discussion, which we have it now. You can make a motion if you'd like, but we will need to move forward on this item in one way or another. Would you like to put that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we amend the third sentence of paragraph B to read, it is recommended that no more than 2 members from any individual preferred profession may serve and or be appointed as regular members concurrently.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Senator to approve ordinance 24-25 with text change stated by Commissioner Senator, and a second by Commissioner Schwartz. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Apking?
Nay.
Marker?
Nay.
I'm sorry?
Nay.
Thank you. Martin?
Aye.
Senator?
Aye.
Severson? York?
Nay.
Schwartz?
Aye.
3 ayes, 4 nays. Motion fails.
Thank you, City Clerk. Do we have it? Commissioner Apking?
So let's just move it forward as Councilman Long suggested.
City Attorney, what would be the proper procedure for moving forward from this point?
Sure, if you'd like to continue this discussion and hear it at another time, we would just need to formally make that known and the time, date, and location of when that discussion will be, so that we can maintain for advertising purposes of this item, we can maintain the public notice of this future discussion.
And that would need to be in the form of a motion.
I think that would be the cleanest if there was a motion to continue the discussion to a time, place, and date certain.
Do we have such motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Commissioner Apking to postpone or move discussion of this particular topic.
And I do need the time,
We'll
date,
do a
and
date
location
certain.
in the motion, though.
I'll approve. Is the date certain of June 4th?
June 4th,
To the June
25 meeting.
to the June 4th, 2025 meeting, which is the next regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Motion made by Commissioner Apking and a second.
And if I may, just to be very clear, that would be here in council chambers at 9 a.m.?
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct. Second by
Schwartz, second.
Commissioner Schwartz. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Apking,
Aye.
Marker,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Senator,
Aye.
Severson. Aye. York,
No.
Schwartz.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes, 1 nay. Motion carries.
Madam City Clerk, thank you. We'll move forward to item 8, citizens' input. This is a public hearing. If any members of the audience wish to speak, please make your way to the podium and state your full name for the record. Seeing none, we'll close citizens' input. Moving forward to member comments. Are there any comments from the members? Plenty of comments were made today, so we'll move past that one. Finally, the date and time of the next meeting for the regular Planning and Zoning Meeting Commission is scheduled for Wednesday, June 4th, 2025 at 9 a.m. in council chambers. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Acting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.